Right. I realized yesterday that we did 5.2. Yeah. So I realized that I didn't share my screen. So 5.1 and 5.2. They are going to have to figure that one out. Huh? Oh, that's true. That will be strong. So I want us to start with 5.3. 5.3. And oh, I'm not sharing my screen here. Shoo. What are they saying here? Under the required, they are saying calculate the rand amount of gross accounts receivable that will be considered acceptable by the bank and that will be eligible to be used as collateral. Okay. Then it goes on to say, calculate the rand amount of net accounts receivable that will be considered acceptable by the bank and that will be eligible to be used as collateral. Okay. Then finally, calculate the level of funds that will be made available by the bank. In other words, how much funding will be made available by the bank. Sure. Let's see what's actually going on in the question, what information they have provided to us. Just want to check, is my phone on silent? Super. So it says, the company is seeking to obtain a bank loan using its accounts receivable as collateral. Okay. Details of the accounts receivable balances, the average age of accounts receivable, and the average payment period of its 8 customers are as follows. Okay, so we got all the information there, balances, average age of accounts receivable in days, and then obviously your average collection period of customer in days. Okay. Right. Then it says the company's credit period is 30 days. Okay. The bank considers accounts receivables that can be collected within 20 days or less of the end of the company's credit period as acceptable. Okay. Provided the average age of each customer's accounts receivables does not exceed the customer's average collection period. Okay, right. Then it goes on to say, the bank considers 5% of credit sales to be lost through returns and allowances and will lend 80% of acceptable collateral, net of expected returns and allowances. Okay. So basically they're letting you know that after taking off that 5%, that they expect to lose, will they then obviously fund 80% of that collateral? Right. So question number 1, they say, calculate the rand amount of gross accounts receivable that will be considered acceptable by the bank and that will be eligible to be used as collateral. So customer number 1, are they acceptable? And I think here, important to register is the following, right? That, remember what they said the criteria was? 20 days or less, right? From the end of the company's credit period, all right? So basically they're saying 30 days plus 20, which obviously gives us then 50 days, okay? So they must be able to collect this money within 50 days, okay? That was the first criteria. Second criteria, they then also said, provided the average age of each customer's accounts receivables does not exceed, so in other words, the average age of accounts receivables, all right, does not exceed the customer's average collection period. It must not exceed the collection period of the customer. So, okay, so if you look at the first one, you see that the average age there, is it below 50 days? It is. And is your average age of accounts receivables below your collection period of the customer? Yes. So we are going to then collect this 40,000, isn't it? Then we go to the next one. The average, is it below 50 days? Average age of the accounts receivable or receivable? It is, right? But what about it exceeds? It exceeds the collection period, isn't it? And so, because remember they say this is the trick in the question, because I also didn't understand it. It took me a second or two to, after reading it once or twice. So they say that the bank considers accounts receivables that can be collected within 20 days or less of the end, can you see, of the company's credit period as acceptable. So we know that the credit period of the company is 30 days. Because just above, just under the table, it says the company's credit period is 30 days. So this question would be too easy if they did not put in that little, but yeah, that's exactly why we are saying 50 days instead of 20. Because remember, they say 20 days or less. So here we are going to reject this one. Okay. So here I think you can just put N/A because our average age of accounts receivable is greater than the average collection period there that you see, 30. So we go to the next one and we see exactly the same thing. So we can copy and paste. Next one, same thing, copy and paste. Then we look at this one. We see that it's 12 days. And at the same time, you can see that it's less than the collection period there. So we can put in that 20,000. Go to the next one. Same problem as the 3 that we see above there. Okay, so here we are. Same thing over here. And then finally with this one, this is acceptable. And that is for 24.
So don't they accept Number 6.
Let's see. Let's go back to it. So there we see, oh, you're looking at the average days being less than the collection period. Yeah, sorry. We actually do. These ones are more than. Yes. Thank you for that, Thomas. You're right. Number 6. We actually include 15. So now what is the total gross accounts that are acceptable? Isn't that what we wanted to calculate, isn't it? Total gross. 100,000. Okay. Now that we have that, the next question now says, calculate the rand amount of net accounts receivable that will be considered acceptable by the bank and that will be eligible to be used as collateral. How much can we use as collateral? The 5% is, yes, is what we're writing off. So we're then saying, okay, this 100,000 less 5%, which in other words, what is 95% of this 100,000? 95,000, 95K. Okay. Then the last bit, they're then saying, calculate the level of funds that will be made available by the bank. Okay. The bank said they would fund how much? 80% of the collateral, isn't it? So this collateral, this acceptable collateral, times what? 0.80, which then gives us how much? What do you guys get? How much? 76,000. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your 5.3. 5.3. Right. So then we can go to 5.4. And what is happening over there? So with 5.4, under the required, it says calculate the amount that sterling factors would remit, right, to, what is that, scrap builders up to and including 30 June 2004 and the dates of those remittances. Round all answers to the nearest rand. Okay. Scrap Builders Limited have factored 10 of their accounts receivable accounts to sterling factorers. Details of the factored accounts, including due date, amount factored, and status, are summarized by the following table. The factor purchases all acceptable accounts receivable on a non-recourse basis. Does anybody know what a non-recourse basis is? Non-recourse. Google Chat GPT. Basically, because you guys are going to say he just comes and does Chat GPT for us. Basically, non-recourse, it means if we do a deal and you sell your debtors to me, I obviously can take your debtors right? But I cannot take anything else from your business. Does that make sense? So if your debtors fail to pay me, sorry, that's it. I have no other recourse to get my money. Does that make sense? So that's what they are. It's like saying your collateral is limited to our debtors. There's no other collateral outside of this. So where are we now? Right. And it says, okay, so the factor purchases all acceptable accounts receivables on a non-recourse basis, and remittance comprises both of uncollected and collected accounts receivable. Sterling factors charge the company a commission of 2.5%, which is deducted from the amount remitted to the company. Okay, right. Cool. So let's see. Here they didn't tell us that any of these are, they didn't, the factor purchases all acceptable accounts receivables. They didn't tell us what is acceptable and unacceptable. Can you see that? So can we assume all of these are acceptable? I think so. Okay. I think so. So I think what then now needs to happen is we literally are calculating the value remitted for each of these. I think it would be good to insert a table to the left and then just copy. Are they in the same order? Yes. Remit. To remit is to hand over or to, from a financial perspective. So if you see here, it says date of remittance. And if you look here on the first, for the first client, right? Debtor account number 1. Can you see it was collected on the, it was due on the 30th, right? But the date it was collected was on the 20th. And then here, remittance date, can you see? It's also saying the 20th. So they collected it on the 20th and then remitted it over to the, so I'm your factor. I'm the one who is buying your debt. You remit those funds to me. Can you see that? Not a punishment. Remember, I funded you ahead of time before these guys paid. Does that make sense? And also, I'm actually funding you even on the accounts that were not collected. Can you see? So I'm actually giving you funding because you don't have money. So you now need to remit, in other words, hand over whatever you have or are about to receive. So in some cases, you've already collected. In other cases, you haven't. Does that make sense? So now they're saying, okay, what is the value that's going to be remitted? So here, what I wanted to do was to just copy the amounts. I don't know now why I've put date of remittance, because not all of these have been remitted. So maybe the best thing for me to do actually is to maybe just leave this out for a second. I'm scared that maybe these amounts are not fully in alignment. So maybe let's just ignore this for a second, because I'm not sure if they're in alignment, but I know that the debtors is in order. So let's see now. Remember, they said there is a 2.5% commission. So the value remitted should then obviously just be this amount minus the 2.5. So if we calculate, what do you get? We're basically saying times what? 97.5%. What do we get for the second one? Thomas, are we doing the right thing there in the back of the book? Just check for us. We are. Okay, so we're on the right track. Oh. Yep. Okay, so I'm sure we're getting the point, right? So that is all that we really needed to do over there. Can you see something interesting? They said calculate the amounts. So they didn't want us to calculate the total amount that's going to be remitted in relation to all of the debtors. So I think this was really just one of those questions where they just wanted you to apply your mind to what's going on here, but there really wasn't anything too hectic here. Wasn't anything too hectic here. So that was 5.4. Doing pretty well for time. So then, moving to 5.5. What is going on in 5.5? If we look at question 5.5, it's broken up into two sections, isn't it? Two sections. So you've got part A and part B. So with part A, under the required, it says calculate the rand cost of each bank proposal. All right. Then it says based on effective interest rates alone, which of the proposals offer the company the best rate? And we know the best rate would be what? Highest or the lowest? Well, we don't know if we're investing or if we're actually paying, right? Okay, so let's read and see what's happening. The question comprises two separate parts. Oasis Suppliers is having problems with its liquidity and is seeking to raise a short-term loan of 150,000 over a period of 30 days. Okay, so we need 150,000 over a period of 30 days. The company has no source of unsecured financing available and is seeking to use its inventories as collateral for secured short-term financing. The carrying value of its inventories is currently 400,000, which includes finished goods of 200,000. The company has received proposals from 3 banks as follows. Bank A, all right, is offering a trust receipt loan of 150 against finished goods inventories. This will attract an annual interest rate of 10% on the value of the loan drawn down, as well as an administration fee of 0.50% on the 150,000 initial loan amount borrowed. The average amount to be borrowed by the company is expected to be 100,000 over the 30-day period. Okay. So then, how do we calculate it? And I think we should just calculate for Bank A first before we move on to the next, because we may just forget some of the things going on over there. So we have Bank A, right? And they're willing to give us 150, right? But there are 2 costs there. There's the administration fee, and then there's obviously the 10% annual interest rate. Okay, so how then do we calculate this? What would we do to calculate this? So for instance, what did they say? The average amount to be borrowed by the company is expected to be 100,000. So we're not going to use 150,000, even though we have 150,000 available to us, isn't? So that means that we need to calculate 10% on 100,000. Because remember, the 10% applies to what we use, isn't? So that obviously is going to give us 10,000. Then there's the admin fee. Okay. And what does it say about the admin fee? It says, 0.50% on the 150,000 initial loan amount borrowed. Okay, so here it's on the full 150. So 0. If you will be so kind to calculate that, 150,000. What do we get? You're saying what? Oh, you're saying this is 75,000. It's not 50%, it's 0.5%. But there should be a 75 involved there. 750. So where do we go from here? Are we done? Yes, we are done, because they want the rand, isn't the rand cost? So what's happening with Bank B? They say Bank B is offering the company a 30-day floating lien in the one in the book? What are they getting at the book, in the book? Wait, you said 10,000 divided by? Oh, when doing the calculation. Okay, so let's just see something. You are saying, let me erase this to create space. You are saying 10%, right? Times 30 over 365. Is that right? Which does make sense. Okay, so we have to apportion it for the 30 days, which is giving us what over here? You said 822. Thank you for that. You actually are right. Did not apportion it. True. So the total then is, I thought you wanted us to convert into a percentage. So I thought you initially wanted to say. What are we getting? 1,572. Okay. That's the rand amount there. Okay.
So when they actually taking the material discount, because why are they taking them 0.5% and 150,000 unless they have them?
You can kind of argue it both ways, because the bank, remember, they are making 150 available. So if we wanted to actually borrow 150 instead of 100 over the 30 days, we have access to it. So if they're giving us 150, remember, banks don't have unlimited funds. They have only so much funds that they can give out to customers. So you can argue it both ways. But yeah, we are thinking like financial managers. I like. So let's move on to Bank B. Okay, so Bank B is offering the company a 30-day floating lien of 150,000 on the carrying value of inventory, attracting an interest rate of 14% per annum. Okay, so now what must happen here? Here, can you see we don't have any admin fee? It's literally only on what? It's only this 14% per annum. So how are we going to calculate this here? We have to then obviously 30 over 365, right? Times our interest rate of 14%. Times 150. Which gives us what? 1726. Coin. Everybody happy with that? Okay, right. Then we have Bank C. And we'll finish off with this before we take our break. With Bank C, what's happening there? It says is offering a warehouse receipt of 150,000 on the carrying value of the finished goods inventories. This will attract an annual interest rate of 16% on the value of the loan amount drawn down, as well as a warehousing fee of 0.75% on the average amount borrowed. Okay, the average amount to be borrowed by the company is expected to be 90,000 over the 30-day period. Okay, so Maybe let's just knock out that average amount borrowed first. Interest. They said 90,000 over 30 days. So 365 times the interest rate of 16% times our 90,000. As you calculate that, we also know there's a warehousing fee, isn't it? And that warehousing fee, what is it being applied to? As well as a warehousing fee of on the average amount borrowed. Okay. So 0.% So in essence, this is actually going to be, if you want to remove the percentage, it's actually going to be 0.0075 times 90,000. Okay, I don't think we should apportion that for days. And then, was there any other fee? Was it just those two? Okay. So what are we getting? Those of you who wrote the deferred, I've marked your tests. So if you want to find out your mark, come see me. Hmm? Not today. Ah, okay.
Yeah, what the default system?
That was, nah, it was just calculations. Yeah. No, it was good. It was good. Nobody failed. Nobody failed.
You can see the trend.
It's not a trap. Okay, let's finish this so I can give you guys a break. What amount are we getting? On the first one. Okay. 1184. 675. Okay. 1850. 59. Okay. Right. So that is our part A, or the first part of our question 5A. Okay, so let's take our break. Then when we get back, we'll finish this off and find out what they're asking us in part B. What they're asking us in part B.